What's going on, y'all? It's about that time. Week 14 has passed. I think it's finally time to start looking into the playoff picture, looking at, who's potentially in, who's potentially out. We're going to go ahead and start with the NFC because the NFC is a lot more cut and dry. You kind of have an idea of who's going to get in, who's going to be out at this point. The AFC, just looking at it, it is very crowded. A lot of things are going to have to happen for certain teams to get in. There's a lot of moving parts with the AFC. With the NFC, it's pretty cut and dry. We know who the top teams are. It's the Niners, it's the Cowboys, it's the Eagles. I think one of those three teams are going to be the team that actually makes the Super Bowl. The rest of the teams in the NFC are basically mid, in my opinion. The Lions, they're borderline mid. I don't know what to think about the Lions. So we're gonna start with the NFC because it's gonna be a lot more easier to talk about. Right now we have the 49ers. They're at the top of the conference at 10-3. The 49ers' two major wins that are gonna basically get them the first round bye is the wins against the Cowboys and the Eagles because of the tiebreaker. If the 49ers win out, they're in the first round bye no matter what. Even if the Cowboys and the Eagles both went out, the 49ers, they got that first round bye. Right now, at the second seed, we have the Dallas Cowboys. Now, here's where it could get tricky for the Cowboys, right? Now, the Cowboys, we have one of the tougher schedules to end off the season, but the problem with the Dallas Cowboys is that bad loss to the Arizona Cardinals at the beginning of the season. I think it was late September. It was just a bad loss. And when that happened, I told myself back then, I was like, that is not good for us because I understood what the end of our schedule looks like towards the end of the season, the teams we have to play. I understood that Arizona, at the time, people were thinking Arizona might not win a game because of the Kyler Murray injury and just their lack of talent. So that loss to the Cardinals, I knew that loss was going to fuck us, and that loss did fuck us. So if the Cowboys went out and the Eagles went out as well, because of the NFC tiebreaker, the Eagles have beaten more NFC teams than the Cowboys. I think that's what they were explaining. The Eagles would move up and win the division over us, even if both teams went out. Super, super weird. Like I said, that loss to the Arizona Cardinals fucked us. Right now, the Detroit Lions, they're top of their division. You're probably going to be the number 3 seed. It was looking like the Packers might, hawk them down with the way the Packers have been playing and the way the Lions have been playing, but the Packers had a horrible loss on Monday Night Football to the New York Giants. So that all but locked up the division for the Detroit Lions. And in the NFC South, guys, who gives a fuck? Who cares? Who cares about the NFC South? I'm not even going to talk about any NFC South team because no matter what, whoever wins that division, they're going to get blown out by either the Cowboys or the Eagles. Next. Right now, Eagles are sitting at the number 5 seed. We talked about what has to happen. The Eagles, they have to lose a game. I'm a huge Seattle Seahawks fan right now. They have to beat the Eagles on Monday Night Football. I think they're playing on Monday night. They have to beat the Eagles on Monday Night Football for the Cowboys to win the division, and the Cowboys have to also win out. So that's that. It's either going to be the Eagles or the Cowboys at the number 5 seed, depending on what the rest of the season looks like. The Minnesota Vikings, oh my gosh, they're just like that game really put a bad taste in my mouth. Winning 3-0, a 3-0 game in a dome. That just put a bad taste in my mouth. And then we also have the Green Bay Packers right now at the 7th seed. So we have a handful of teams right now that are fighting for the final 2 spots in the playoffs. On the NFC side, we have the Minnesota Vikings, the Green Bay Packers, the Los Angeles Rams, and the Seattle Seahawks. So if we were to just take a look at the Minnesota Vikings remaining schedule, right? So if we're just now first, let me take a look at the Eagles and the Cowboys remain scheduled because this is going to be huge for, just playoff standing. So the Eagles, they have a very light schedule to end off the season. Their one game where they could lose is against the Seahawks. Besides that, they play the Giants twice and the Cardinals once. There's no way they lose to the Giants or the Cardinals. That's just me being realistic. So that Seahawks game on Monday Night Football, is going to loom large for us Cowboys fans. So I just want to get that out the way. The Cowboys, they have one of the tougher schedules to end off the season. We have the Bills next week on Sunday. We're America's Game of the Week. Then we have the Dolphins the following Sunday. Then we have the Lions after that. I think we play the Lions on like a Saturday or something. I forget what day we play the Lions. It's a tough 3 weeks. Are those teams beatable? Yes. We just saw the Titans beat the Dolphins. The Bills, they've been up and down this season. The Lions, they've been kind of sliding a little bit. And then to end off the season, we face the Commanders. So, yeah, one of the tougher schedules to end off the season. Right now, now let me just get back and touch on the Vikings, the Packers, the Rams, and the Seahawks, because those are the teams fighting for those final 2 spots. The Vikings, they have a tougher, last 4 games of the season as well. They play the Lions twice, and they play the Packers. They also have the Bengals next week. With the way the Vikings are playing, Josh Dobbs, he has came back down to earth. The Josh Dobbs experiment is over. All of these games, all 4 of the games, none of it is a cakewalk. So the Vikings, they have their work cut out for them if they want to slide into the playoffs. Let's go to the Packers. So the Packers, the Packers have a very favorable end of the season. They play the Buccaneers, the Panthers, the Vikings, and the Bears. Ladies and gentlemen, there's a real possibility the Packers can go 4-0 to end the season. I know they had that bad game on Monday Night Football, but let's not put too much stock into that loss. The Packers could end the season off 4-0 and squeak their way into the playoffs. So those are 4 very winnable games, and then finally we have the Rams and the Seahawks. So the Rams, yeah, they have a favorable last 4 games of the season as well. It's just the 49ers. You could basically pencil that in as a loss at the end of the season, because 49ers at that point, last game of the season, they're probably going to still be playing for that first-round bye, trying to get that first-round bye. But they play the Commanders, which they should win. They play the Saints, which they should win. They play the Giants, which they should win. And then at the end of the season, they play the 49ers. I'm going to pencil that in as a loss. The Rams, ladies and gentlemen, could end the season off 3-1. And I think they would also squeak into the playoffs if they're able to do that. I'm not looking at it in front of me. I'm just kind of giving you guys the overview. Now, the Seahawks, you never know what the Seahawks, is Geno going to be playing? I could almost pencil that game against the Eagles in as a loss. I hope they win. Then they play the Titans. The Titans with that rookie quarterback. Who knows about the Titans? I think they're a bad team, but they just beat the Dolphins, so who the freak knows? The Steelers are just so mid, but I feel like the Steelers can beat the Seahawks. That's one of those games where the Steelers win to be above 500 to end off the season, and then the Cardinals, they should win that game as well. So, the NFC, those are the teams that are fighting for the final 2 spots. We all know the 5th seed is either going to be the Cowboys or the Eagles, and they're going to flood the NFC South champion. They're going to flood them out the stadium. So we don't really have to talk about that. Now the 49ers, real quick, hold on now. I almost missed this. The 49ers, guys, they play the Ravens in 2 weeks. They play the Ravens. That's going to be a great game. There's going to be a lot of stake at that game. The Ravens are going to be playing for their number one seed. The 49ers are going to be playing for the number one seed. So there's going to be a lot at stake for that game, guys. That's most likely going to be the game of the week. But yeah, let's move on over to the AFC side. The AFC side is a lot more contested. There's a lot of 7-6 teams, as y'all can see. I'm going to put this stuff on the screen, but there's a lot of 7-6 teams. It's highly contested. We have the Steelers, the Colts, the Texans, the Broncos, the Bengals, the Bills, all at 7-6. Like, sheesh. The Texans, that loss to the Jets has to sting if you're a Texans fan. Because if they win that game, does that put them above Jacksonville? Because didn't the Texans and the Jaguars split this season? Does that put them ahead of the Jags? Because that was a bad loss for the Texans, losing to the Jets, because they were in a good spot. But, the Steelers, I think they're frauds. I don't want the Steelers to make the playoffs. They're a boring team to watch. Kenny Pickett, is he out for the season? I don't know. Who cares? Like, that's how irrelevant the Steelers are to me. Like, that's how boring they are to watch. The Colts, they're a fun little team. I'm not going to lie. I like Gardner Minshew. I really love the Texans. I would love to see the Texans make the playoffs. I don't want to see the Broncos make the playoffs because they're also a boring team to watch. The Bills, you would love to have them in the playoffs, but I'm afraid that the Bills getting in the playoffs, they would have to win out or at least go 3-1. And I just don't want them to beat the Cowboys. I need the Cowboys to beat the Bills because I need the Cowboys to win out because we're fighting for a number one, spot. We're fighting for a division title. So very tightly contested. Let's just kind of talk about the remaining schedule for these playoff teams in the AFC. I mean, the Ravens, wow, they have one of the tougher schedules to end off the season. The Ravens, they play the Jags. Then they play the 49ers. Then they play the Dolphins. And then they play the Steelers. That's a divisional matchup. None of those games am I able to say, yeah, I see the Ravens, winning out or winning that game. So, sheesh. That's a tough schedule. I thought the Cowboys' schedule was tough to end the season, but the Ravens' schedule was very tough. Let's go down to the Dolphins' schedule. So the Dolphins, they play the Jets. Right now, the way it's looking, I guess that's not a gimme, even though it should be a gimme. The Dolphins blew out the Jets on Black Friday, so I chalk that as a win. The Cowboys, I could see the Cowboys beating the Dolphins. Then the Dolphins play the Ravens. Then they play the Bills. So the Dolphins also have a very tough schedule to end off the season, guys. I would, I'm going to confidently say I see them winning the division, but, who knows? Who knows? What if the Dolphins lose out and the Bills win out? Even though, that's not going to happen, guys. They're going to at least beat the Jets. But, yeah, this is just how tightly contested the AFC is. Next, the Chiefs. The Chiefs are going to win their division. Their last 4 games are a cakewalk. They play the Patriots. They play the Raiders. They play the Bengals. They play the Chargers. They're going to win out. The Chiefs are going to win out. They're going to go 4-0 to end the season. They're going to have one home game, but this is going to be, the first year we've seen in a minute where the Chiefs don't have home field advantage throughout the playoffs. I think the Ravens are going to have home field advantage throughout the playoffs. They're going to get that first round bye. The Chiefs are going to have one home game, and then they're going to have to go on the road, ladies and gentlemen. So, can the Chiefs wide receivers stop selling the bag? Is Kadarius Toney the biggest bonehead on the planet? Let me know in the comments. Now we got the Jags. The Jags, they have a very light schedule to end the season besides that game against the Ravens. They play the Bucks, they play the Panthers, they play the Titans. Those should be 3 wins right there. The Ravens, that's a toss-up. That's going to be a great game next week. That's a primetime game next week. Let's go. Sunday Night Football next week. Let's fucking go. That's going to be a great game. The Browns, I like the Browns. I'm a big fan of the Browns right now. They just continue to win. That defense is next level. They got Joe Flacco out here looking like, what was it, Joe Flacco 10 years ago. Like, I'm liking that. They play the Bears next week, which isn't going to be a cakewalk the way the Bears are playing right now. The Bears aren't a horrible team right now. Then they play the Texans, which is not a cakewalk. The Texans are a good team. Then they play the Jets. You know that game is going to be ugly with the Jets and the Browns. And then they play the Bengals. I mean, with the Bears situation, I mean not the Bears, with the Browns situation on, how they're trotting out Joe Flacco as their quarterback. All those games, in my opinion, are a toss-up. Those last 4 games, I don't see anywhere where I'm like, oh, yep, that's a definite Browns dub. So that's a toss-up for me, guys. Now we got the Steelers. I don't want the Steelers to make the playoffs, so let's just go past the Steelers. I mean, their last 4 games, they play the Seahawks, they play the Ravens, they play, the Colts, they play the Bengals. I mean, with how mid the Steelers are, what if they go 0-4? I sure hope they do, because I don't want to see the Steelers in the playoffs. They're a boring team. We have the Colts, which are pretty exciting. The Colts have a favorable schedule to end the season. They play the Steelers. They play the Falcons. They play the Ravens. I mean, not the Ravens, the Raiders. Those are 3 favorable matchups, in my opinion. But then the last game of the season, they have the Texans. The Texans, like I said, they're a great team. Not a great team. They're a good team, guys. So you can't sleep on the Texans. And then the Texans' schedule to end off the season. The Texans going against the Titans, going against the Browns. The Titans again, the Colts. So it's going to be a lot of AFC South matchups to end the season. And, interdivision matchups, you never know what's going to happen, right? So, and then the Broncos, Lions, Patriots, Chargers, Raiders. The Lions are really their only tough game. Like the AFC, the Bengals, I don't want to even talk about them. They shouldn't make the playoffs, the backup. And then the Bills, this is crunch time for them. They have the Cowboys, the Chargers, the Patriots, and the Dolphins. Let's say the Bills split that and go 2-2. Is that enough to make the playoffs? Who knows? Do the Bills have to win out to make the playoffs? Who knows? So this video is running a little long. This is going to be one of my longer videos. Guys, it's that time. It's December. This is where real football starts. This is the most exciting football of the season, in my opinion, besides the beginning of the season, because I like to see the beginning of the season, see all the mistakes, see people kind of gel and, figure themselves out. But the end of the season is just so exciting, looking at all these different matchups and, what may happen, predictions, the whole 9 yards, guys. So, if you like the video, subscribe if you like the content, and I'll see you on the next one.